Yeah, sure. Okay, so we will start the evening. So welcome everyone to the Osaka Cup Navigation and ENC Q&A, who is present. Well, we've got Rod Smallman has kindly donated us his expertise to help us out. So please, as I mentioned previously, please um, work out your questions. We've got some time for Rod to answer them. Just a reminder, this is a free-flowing Q&A. It's not a training session as such. So questions last week will be forwarded. I think we've got at least one of those questions. And again, we'll open it to the floor. So if you want to answer a question, please put it in chat or raise your hand, and then I will unmute you for you to answer the question for Rod to answer. Okay, so for an introduction, Rod Smallman. So he was a competitor in the 2018 Osaka with his son Tyson on Maverick when he used to own the boat, but he's still sailing that boat successfully. During the lead up to that race, he mastered navigation with some very expert people with Expedition up in Townsville. Has gone on and done a lot of training sessions with us on Expedition and navigation at the ORCV. And I note that he hasn't run aground yet. I better ask him as a first question if that's still true. Look, we have to thank our sponsors. We wouldn't be here otherwise. So we've got Musto, Ronstan, Wilkesy Marine and Bolle, and the City of Melbourne for our sponsors to help us out. And then we've got our partner club and supporters. So without further ado, I will hand you over to Rod, who will share his screen. And thank you, Rod. I'll let you to take over. If you've got some questions there you want to kick off to answer?
Sure. Well, firstly, hello, everyone. There's a few of you in. That was a throwaway line with Delma. I haven't run aground yet, but it's pretty good from a navigator's point of view, isn't it? Not to have done that, so I'll take it. So the aim of tonight was that there was a few there was a bit of conversation going on in your WhatsApp group, and so we thought we'd just sort of do a bit of a Q&A to answer any questions that you've got. The thing about this race is that the ENCs are a requirement to be on the boat. So we'll do everything we possibly can to help you with that. Essentially, there's two types of ENCs that are going to be on the boat. One's going to be on your chart plotter, and one's going to be on your computer. So I don't have a chart plotter here with me tonight, so I'll be sort of demonstrating stuff on the computer, and we're going to sort of start off with we have one question about the selection of ENCs. So I am going to use Expedition as my demonstration tool, much to Delma's disgust, because she says when I zoom in and out, there's a bit of lag in the in what you see. So I'll do my best, and if there is lag, let me know, and I'll just sort of slow things down. To answer the question of charts auto selecting, yes, they do. Expedition will select the best chart for your viewing, and same with the with the chart plotter. So if you're inside an area where it's covered by a higher scale chart, then that'll get automatically selected. With Expedition, Pete, there's a button up here. Just bear with me one tick. Bear with me one tick, because I want to do something. mouse. Just talk amongst yourselves, blah, 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 blah. Mouse. I just want to make my mouse bigger. That's what I'm trying to do. Should have done this first. Mouse pointer size. Here we go. There and there and there we go. So hopefully you can see that better. So up here, there's an auto chart selector. And if that's on, it'll just pick the best chart for you, whether it's an RNC or an ENC. It won't flick between Navionics and ENCs. And as with people with the chart plotters, as I said, if you've got a high resolution chart area, it'll just auto select that. You can turn that off and then you'll have to select it yourself. That was the question. I had one pre-question. So does that answer your question, Pete? Because you asked it.
Yes, Rod, that does. Now it was also to do with the fact that the Japanese charts is it S63 or S57? What's the difference between those two charts?
So S57, Sierra 57 are unencrypted charts. So the NOAA charts and I've got some places that you can go and see. I'm just going to scroll out. Apologies, Delma. I'm just going to go on to a different chart at the moment. So I'm just going to scroll out and go up into the North Pacific. And I don't know whether you can see all those boxes there, but they're all the NOAA charts, and they're all the free charts. So S57 are free, and you basically get them through America. It seems to be the big winner there. They give away their charts, and S63 are exactly the same chart, only encrypted. Now, if you can buy you can buy the charts through boat books, and essentially, they come from the Australian Hydrographic Office. So the Hydrographic Office will do Australia, the Solomons, and Papua New Guinea, and I'm pretty sure they're now sort of doing some of New Zealand, where America does all of America, including their waters there, but they also include the Carolines and Micronesia, so you can get detailed charts for free. You can get the same charts through the British Admiralty, but you'll pay for them. So they encrypt them, and then they'll charge you for them. And I never saw the sense in doing that. So the thing that I set up was 2 Voyager packs, which gives you basically the eastern seaboard of Australia. The pack that we made up for the northern part of the Pacific Ocean, and then the NOAA charts, which give you all the details through the Carolines and the Marianas and things like that. So the only difference between 57 and 63 is you pay for one.
Okay.
I've got another question here, Rod, from Kevin. Well, not a question, but just a clarification about it's a good idea to have a chart boundaries on, so there is high-res charts available that will be easily seen. Do you want to show us how to change those boundaries?
Yep. So here we're just looking at Australia now. Can everyone see my chart, my screen?
Yep.
Can we see can we see all the boxes here?
If you zoom in on a chart, it'll show a high resolution chart within that box. If there's any reefs that might be not quite visible in a lower res chart. So
once we so this is just a world chart. So once we scroll in, and I'll scroll into Bass Strait, because we all know those waters, and I'll just select the Bass Strait ENC. So at the moment, the thing about ENCs is you can select what you want to see, but if you can hit it, it won't go away on the chart. Whereas on the Navionics / CMAP, it'll disappear on the chart. So I can turn everything off here. and have nothing on my, this is still an official chart that we're looking at, but you'll notice here that the Yola platform won't disappear, whereas on Navionics it will. I can scroll into here where we're scrolling into Port Phillip heads, and as I scroll in,
I'm supposed to pay them up front before they start this thing. And
Yeah, I think I'll just have to mute everyone because we've got too much going through from people. Okay, I've just muted everyone.
so when I scroll in, as Kevin says, you can see some boxes around here. And when I get to the point where my screen, and it'll be the same on your chart plotter, is totally immersed, you'll get higher resolution and you'll get more and more and more information. The other beauty with the ENCs, it's a bit of a pain on a chart plotter because you have to sort of go into your settings to find all this, is you can turn things on and off. So if I want to see the light sectors here or the text, I can start cluttering up my chart with as much information as possible. The other thing also that you can see on your ENC chart is you can turn on how accurate.
I've just muted Robert, who came in. So yeah,
you can turn on how accurate your charts are. I don't know whether you can see the detail here, but you can see a little triangle with 6 stars in it, and that says that it's a zone of confidence A. When you start to scroll out, you don't really want this on all the time because it just keeps cluttering up a chart. But you can see over here that in this area here, you're down with the zone of confidence 3, and this is the main difference between the ENC charts and normal charts, is you can now then make an informed decision that, you know, and there's information, there's plenty of information to say how far you should steer clear of charted reefs, rocks, and so forth when it's a zone of confidence C or D as compared to a zone of confidence A. And that's really important when you're going through places like the Carolines where, you know, some of that information was done by Captain James Cook. So that will sort of answer or explain Kevin's thing. When you see the chart bounds here, you'll know that there's a higher resolution chart. So when I scroll out to see all of Port Phillip Bay, you'll see up there that there's square boxes up here that will give you more and more information, so that they're just the high, you know, the high resolution stuff you see off your paper charts. In some of them, you know, you'll see the main area, and then you'll see the high res of the ports.
just to carry on from Kevin was talking about seeing reefs. Do you want to talk about race notes on expedition? For identifying when you zoomed out, you're not going to hit a reef that you may want to identify, Rod?
Well, on ENCs, they won't disappear, Paul. So yes, you can put race notes on. Let's just say, for argument's sake, you know, you want to identify something here, which but the beauty of ENCs is if you can possibly hit it, it won't disappear off the chart. So all those reefs, you know, up in the Coral Sea, they will all stay there, as opposed to a Navionics chart. You like the color of my mouse?
Okay, have we got any more queries? I'll just, oops. Oh, sorry about that, Rod. Just reshare that.
Reshare what?
Your screen.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Okay, I will share again. Can you all see? You should be able to see it, yeah?
Yep, everyone still see that.
Next question.
Yep, they can still see it. Yep. Yeah,
Anyone's
next
got
question.
questions?
Any more questions in the chat?
So if you don't have a question, I will ask a question on your behalf. So what you're seeing now is the download for the NOAA site for all your American charts. I just use all because I can't be bothered figuring out which region the ENCs that I need are in. So I just download the lot and put it in. This tells you when they're updated, and it's probably a good idea just before you go to update all of your charts. Not probably, it is a good idea to update all of the charts. So this is the do we have a chat here, Paul?
We do.
Can I put this in a chat?
Sure.
Where is the chat? There's a link for the NOAA site. So you need to download this, and for the chart plotter people, you need to then put this on a stick and then go and shove it in your charts. But it's the same process. So with the permit file, that's what gets updated every fortnight or week with the Australian Hydrographic Office. If the charts that you have purchased aren't updated, they won't give you anything. They'll just give you a PDF to say nothing to see here. So you'll only get a new permit file if the charts that you have purchased have been altered in any way. And that will be also the case with the British Admiralty stuff. So that block that we gave you a link to, which is all the Northern Pacific stuff, is a combination of British Admiralty, the Japanese Hydro, and the Korean Hydro. But the British Admiralty seem to control it in terms of sending you any updated information. So the process is you'll get some sort of documentation from these people to say, hey, we've updated your chart. Then it's a matter of going into, and I've just brought up the Australian Hydrographic Office. And again, I'll put that in the chat. So there it is in the chat. So you can download with the Australian ENCs. There's two. There's a base, which gets updated every 6 months. And there's an update, which gets updated either every week or every fortnight. I'm not quite sure. Somebody just said it's now weekly. So once you've installed the base, you don't need to install it again until there's a new base. So the next release of the Australian base is July, so it won't affect you for the race. So as long as you've got this current base in, and then you just simply install the updates over the top of that. So if you're getting an update in, say, a week's time, you really only need to download the cumulative updates. You don't really need to download and install the base again because it's already there. So all you're doing is you're telling your system, whether it be your chart plotter or Expedition or something like that, here's my new permit file, and here's can you speak, Paul, because my headphones go off if I can't get any volume.
Yes, sure.
There we go.
Can you hear
We're
me?
back on.
Yep.
Yeah, we're back on. So the process is you get a new permit file, you go and download these things yourself, whether they be the NOAA or the British Admiralty or here with the Australian Hydrographic Office, and then you install them. So it's a matter on Expedition, and I will show you on Expedition up here in charts. You go to ENCs and you push on your permit here, and you go searching you import your new permit text file, which you'll get from the hydrographic office. Once you've done that and you've downloaded your updated charts, you then go into here and search for the new ones. I don't know the exact methodology for the chart plotter, but it's very similar. It's just the process. You get your new permit text, you download your charts, and you reinstall them.
So we had a query here from Robert Bradley about, you know, how do we know the charts are loaded? This obviously tells you, that answers that question. That'll tell you it's loaded in there. Correct,
Yeah.
Rod?
So these are all the ENCs that I've got loaded now. You see, I don't know whether you can see on the screen, but they're all Australia. And if I go down here, they're all the American charts, and then you can see somewhere there's some Japanese ones, but there's thousands of them. And it'll tell you what it is. It'll tell you when it was revised, and it'll tell you lots of things. So you'll find all this information as well on your chart plotter. It's just a little bit difficult going through that sort of push button thing.
I've got another question here from Peter Downey about can you show us the file structure on C drive? Is that shown on C drive, Rod, these charts, or are they encrypted in another file?
No, they're not encrypted. I've got to be careful here that I don't show you my porn site. Well, that's a sorry, boys and girls, that's a joke. I should be careful of my weird humor. So here, this is on my D drive here. I've got a folder called ENC charts. When I click onto there, I've got my permit from the hydrographic office. I've got my base charts. I've got my updated charts. I've got my NOAA charts and so forth. And that's where they all live. And so I just download them into a folder, and I assume,
Rod, that you can put that anywhere on your hard disk.
100%
directory. Yep.
With the chart plotters, you've got to put this on a stick, and then you've got to do it one at a time. You know, you've got to reinstall your base, and then you've got to reinstall your updates and so forth. And it's probably more of an onerous process. If you think it's really bad, Cyrus, try putting it on a chart plotter.
So, Rod, with your permits, do you put the base permit, is that in your ENC base folder, or is that in your main license folder?
Well, it's in my main ENC charts folder. You can see this big long number up the top there.
Yeah.
If I zoom in on that, there's my permit text there, and I just simply go and in Expedition, I just go and load it from here. So it's all in one folder, because base starts with B and update starts with U. You can just point to the master folder if you like, and it'll systematically go through and update things in that order. So that's easy. I normally just do the base and the update separately, but you can if you name your folders in your master ENC folder, it'll just systematically go from A to Z.
And the NOAA charts, when you put so you don't need a permit for your NOAA charts, but
correct.
But when you point Expedition at, where to find the charts, obviously, if you hit that ENC master chart folder, it just filters out and decides what it wants to accept?
Yes. So with an S63 chart, it'll only unencrypt, de-encrypt, unencrypt. Let's go with unencrypt. It'll only unencrypt the stuff that's in your permit, right?
Yep.
With NOAA charts, there's no permit. So you simply go in here, search, hey,
Right.
Let's just go into NOAA here, and we'll select that folder, and you'll see it's looking now through that NOAA folder to load all those charts. So the only difference is that it's not going to cross-check as to whether you bought the chart or not. It's just going to give you everything that's there.
Yeah, right.
So Rod, to make it available, you need to open that particular ENC.
Once they're loaded, if you've got this auto chart on, it'll just automatically find it.
Yep.
So the other thing that I wanted to show you as well, if you haven't bought them yet, this is the boat book site. So there's essentially 6 options available to you. This top option here is Voyager packs 2 and 4 to get you up to the Solomons, and for 3, 6, and 12-month licenses. The bottom one here is the North Pacific, which is a combination of the Japanese, Korean, and British Admiralty charts, and you'll see the chart bounds of what you get. And again, you can buy them in 3, 6, or 12-month options. If they expire, you'll still get to see them. There'll just be a warning to say they've expired and don't use them for navigation, but you can still use them. And then, so you really need a combination of the Voyager packs, this Northern Pacific pack, for want of a better word, and the NOAA charts, and that'll give you full ENCs right the way to your finishing line.
Okay, Rod, I've got a question from Robert Bradley here. Is anyone else using QTVLM?
So I'm not quite sure, Robert, and I'll be interested to hear what you've got to say. Whether there's QTVLM and there's also OpenCPN, which is sort of like free chart viewer type things. With the OpenCPN, they have their own charts. You can use official ENCs in there somewhere, but they promote their own charts, and you've got to be careful because they're not official ENCs. With the QT one, I'm wondering whether you can indeed load official charts in. Awesome.
Okay. If that's all, Rod, I've got a question. If you could run us through some basic downloading weather grid files, and what's required to run some optimizational routing, and then maybe some tricks on routing or optimization on expedition during the Osaka race, given that you won't be able to just route from Melbourne to Osaka. You're gonna have to do it in stages. So do you want to run through some tips there, maybe?
Sure. So I'll sort of try to keep it. This is a really cool overall chart I found on from New Zealand. So this is an RNC. It's basically just a photocopy of a big chart, but it's great for sort of big picture stuff. And I can give that to you if you like. If there is any interest, I'll find it and dump it in your WhatsApp thing. So it depends on we'll just sort of have a look at I'm going to turn this auto charting stuff off. We'll have a look at the sort of the whole picture in detail. So we've got the whole racetrack here somewhere. So first of all, the max routing you'll find is 16 days on the GFS stuff. Hopefully you've already sort of decided on your own run line, which could be, anywhere. It could be east-west. The and it also depends on whether you're using like a Starlink or like a previous competitor. Just, I think you know him, Paul, had an unlimited budget on his sat phone.
I never sat.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
but I
only
didn't.
halfway through the race. I think the bill was only $18,000,
Right.
but I was lucky because I wasn't paying for it.
So I didn't have that budget. So what I would do is I would download through the Iridium Go. At the time, I would download, say, a 24-hour high res, and then I would download um, a uh, a maximum low res uh, grib, and I found that they weren't very, very big at all. So the high res, I would sort of determine that, okay, I would have a big picture route to say, yep, this is, I still want to be along this line somewhere, and then I would use the high res to sort of say, okay, what's my best option of getting there within the next 24 hours. From there, I would run probably 20 or 30 different routes. Now, I don't think you can do this on the Predict Wind, but I would give myself a whole bunch of what ifs, So here's the route based on my high res grib. I might, and GFS, when you're nowhere near land, seems to be the better option for a more accurate grib. With the EC modeling, sort of tends to be a little bit better closer to the shore. And now within Expedition, you've now got access to the access gribs and the WRF gribs for sort of getting out of Bass Strait, which are highly detailed. And in fact, a lot of them even can show you, sea breezes and potential land breezes and so forth. So they're hugely good there. So getting back to once I'm offshore and I'm on satellite comms, I'm very, very conscious of what gribs that I want to do. I already know basically where I want to go, but the high res grib for the day is my finer detail of how I want to get there. I will then run probably 20 different scenarios to say, well, what happens if the wind is different to the predicted wind? And we all know how accurate the weather is in terms of weather predictions. And so I start to build a picture to say, okay, well, let's say they're predicting northerlies and the wind is actually a westerly. I will force the downloaded grib. I will change the angle of the wind by 10 degrees, 20 degrees, 30 degrees, and so forth, and I'll see where the routing takes me. Can you speak again, Paul? Because my
Sure, sure. Could you maybe go into the weather data and just show everyone the sources of how, for everyone that's got version 12 of Expedition?
Yeah.
Just to show.
So here on my optimal, I've got up here, I've got a route that will give me plus or minus true wind speed and plus or minus true wind direction. So I'll start to build up pictures if the wind's stronger or weaker than the predicted grib says. So you're going to do a route based on a predicted grib, but what happens if it's different? Should I go left or right? What happens if the current's stronger? So I will then go into my settings here. And again, I'm not quite sure that you can do this on Predict Wind, but I will go in and I will scale the wind or scale the current up and down, depending on, you see here, I'm scaling the current at 200%. So I'll scale the currents 100, 150, 200% to see exactly how strong the current needs to be before the routing will take me into a different place. So I'll build these what ifs, and that might take an hour to come up with a scenario to say, okay, well, I think the wind's going to be from this direction, but if it's from this direction or this direction, then I've got a different game plan. Hopefully that makes sense. you can do this on Expedition, probably you know, things like the QT VLM, where you can just force the grips to do stuff that you potentially is not in the prediction. The other thing as well with these expedition type things, there's a site called ZZ Grib, which gives you very good wave data, and that will also affect your weather routing. You know, if you've got you know, big waves predicted. And a little bit of a disclaimer here. All of these weather routing apps are fearless. They do not care about wind over tide. So they're going to send you into places where you potentially should not go. So don't take them for granted to say, yep, we're going here, because, you know, going around the corner at Green Cape, Gabo Island, it can be very horrid if the current's in the wrong direction. And also going around the bottom of Wilson's Prom, you want to be very, very careful how close you go there, depending on which way the tide and currents are going and the wind. Does that make sense?
Rod, can you just run over a simple, say, downloading a GFS file for an area, just the grid file, just to show how it's done?
Sure. So
just to give her an idea, and then look at the other options, because there's a lot of different sources for this wind data, and also the current data it's not very clear in Expedition in my mind, because it's not just wind, it's actual current. You can source your currents in there as well as your waves.
Sure. Well, that's because you're a Kiwi, Paul, so not much is clear to you. So you click on WX data, weather data, and you've got all this information here. Sail Docs and Expedition are all free. Squid is a subscribed service. And if you click on more, you've got also, you can bring it in from Predict Wind as well. So I haven't subscribed to any weather data for years, because the stuff on Expedition here is so good. So if I click on the Expedition icon here, and then all I have to do is click and make a box there, you can see, hopefully you can see a box generated. And when I let go, I've got options here. And in Expedition, I've got the ability of a high and low res GFS. I've got the ability of the EC, the high res, the ensemble, and a few other things. Down here, the Mercator is the current, which is pretty sure Mercator is the GFS current modeling, and the HICOM is the ECW modeling. I've always found the Mercator to be more accurate.
Yep. And just a comparison, Rod, the Mercator is also used in Predict Wind. If you ever look at Predict Wind on the Optimum routing, they use exactly the same current data. Right.
And so then you've also got the access models here as well. And then you've got the ASCATs, and the ASCATs are not predicted wind. They're calculated wind based on the height and the direction of the waves from something called a scatterometer, which is up in space somewhere, and it's really cool. If you've got Expedition, get into this ASCAT stuff, because it'll find your holes in the doldrums. Yes. So if you use this ASCATs with the satellite imagery, don't weather route. Doesn't matter what you've got, whether it's Expedition or Predict Wind or whatever you've got. Don't weather route in the doldrums. It'll have you chasing your tail. So use the ASCATs, use the satellite imagery, which you can, you know, and again, if you don't have Expedition, You can get it from the bomb sites. So just go into the bomb and you'll find all the satellite imagery there. And don't route in the doldrums. Just max north. Just keep going until you find the northern trades.
Or look at the clouds.
Well, there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that point is, if you're new to weather routing, don't take it verbatim. It's just a guide, and you then have to sort of decide how accurate these weather grids are, you know, and understand that, yep, they might be sort of maybe 70% accurate in the first 24 hours, but 16 days out, it's just an indication, you know. But the GFS in open sea tends to be a pretty good indication. And you'll get that
one
everywhere.
One thing I have noticed with the difference between if you've got a predict wind subscription and you're using Expedition, I've found the weather models are very limited in the amount of days they give you. So if you go in there and use, I don't know if you've got a subscription there, Rod, but they only give you 5 days for their models.
Yeah.
A bit of a limitation.
So I don't have a subscription to Predict Wind, even though I won one when I beat Pete Dowdney in not last year's, but the year before's Melbourne Hobart. Pete, we got a. He's still angry at that. Something about a toward mainsail.
Yeah.
So up here you get to pick between 1 and 16 days, and the GFS low res is the only one that's 16 days. But if I just picked the access, it'll give me 2 days max. You see, I don't know whether you can see that fine.
Oh, we can see it.
So depending on the resolution of your wind grids as to how far it's going to go out, there's one up here called the WRF, which is sort of local to Southern Australia here. That gives you 3 resolution of wind grid, and the highest one here will only give you like 24 hours. So the way the
So basically what you're saying, Rod, is correct me if I'm wrong, for the open water, 2-week look ahead, you recommend GFS low resolution models is what you're looking at.
Yeah, and that'll give you the next 2 weeks out. So the way Expedition routes, and it'll be the same with everything else, is it'll find the newest and the most highest resolution. So if you're going to route the well, here's something that I would sort of recommend. You will have probably already made up your mind which passage you're going to go through the Solomons in. There's no sense in routing past that. So if you've decided you're going to go through the main passage here or some different passage, then just route to that, because there's no sense in sort of routing there, because you're still 2 weeks away from it. But if you've got some high res here in Bass Strait and some low res covering the rest, the routing will use the highest res for that particular part. So it'll just stitch them all together to find the best predicted wind that it can find. So don't worry about sort of saying, oh, okay, well, I'll just download my low res first and then route. Just download the lot, and Expedition will figure it out.
Rod, can we just so you'd recommend breaking the race up into sections, probably 4 sections or 5 sections, and then you've got to work out strategically where you're going to go, because your routing isn't going to tell you from Melbourne to Osaka where to go, but you've got to break it up into sections.
Yeah, based on your analysis of, say, previous years of wind data. You should have an idea of where you want to be crossing the Solomons. If you're not sure, sort of pick a point up here in the Coral Sea somewhere that will give you options. So when you get here, you can sort of zigzag, and you've got more options. So I would be picking a point up at the start of the Coral Sea somewhere where you want to be. Getting
And
out
the question
of Bass.
is, yeah, getting up the East Coast, obviously you've got to make a decision whether you go follow the coast or you go outside the current. And that's always a navigating question you may need to consider is where you leave to go across the current, the East Coast current, whether you hug the shore or.
So this is an overlay of southern New South Wales, and you can see a big eddy here. And that's probably 4 or 5 knots there. So, your immediate decision here is, whether you're going to track outwards from here. And right now, that's a pretty compelling reason why you might cross the current early, because down here in sort of around Narooma, Jarvis Bay type thing, there's little current here. So you might sort of track out from Gaybo Island on a 45 out and try to get into this reverse eddy. Or you're going to hug the coast, and by hugging the coast, I mean really hugging the coast, So if your boat's, if this is a 4 knot current and your boat's got an average speed of 7 knots, so you'll have a potential speed over the ground here of 3 knots or a potential speed over the ground here of 10 knots. So it's quite a difference. So if you're going to learn anything, learn about the East Australian current and the Curacao current.
Great. Yeah, so from memory, last time when we raced in this race, Rod, I think Spirit of Down Under was one of the few boats that went up the coast, and they ended up 1 or 2 days behind by the time we had to stop at the Gold Coast because of the cyclone.
That is correct. And one of your competitors, now Fika, they were Red Jacket. There was a big eddy here, and they came out of Bass Strait basically in the middle, and they were the only ones to do so, and they hooked into this eddy, and they were a day in front of us by the time we hit the Queensland border. So that was quite impressive that they hooked into that eddy. But you can find all this information on, sites like Windy. The IMOS site will give you. This is where these images come from. We just happen to be able to overlay them onto into Expedition.
Is it worth showing them the Mercator currents? So how it's shown on Expedition?
Sure. So what I'll do is I'll just download the Mercators, nothing else. So all I'm going to do here is download a current file. And what I do with this imagery, because I trust this imagery more than anything else, more than the Gribs. What's the go? Never work with animals, children, or live TV. No, I actually got it. So I'll just find. I'll just find something that sort of resembles current. Bear with me for a tick. I need to turn stuff off.
While Rod's doing that, so my advice is play around with all this Expedition stuff before you leave. And yeah, if you got any questions, come back to us and we'll try and sort them out. But you need to practice. It's all about practicing.
So, Rod, you know, the latest version of Expedition, there's that additional subscription that you have to pay. Is that a one-off? Like, I'm running 2 separate laptops with Expedition. Do I need to pay that subscription or that additional fee for both laptops, or just for the one license?
It's per license, Pete, and so like there's no ongoing fees with this, so you're not paying an annual fee. But every now and again, when the programmer wants perhaps a new car or something like that, he'll charge an upgrade fee. And the last time he charged it was about 8 years ago. So it's pretty good value for money, but it's per license. So if you've got a couple of editions, and he's normally pretty good, he'll give you 1 or 2 editions to have, for a home computer and your boat computer. It'll cover both.
Yeah. Okay. Terrific. No.
So I think Cyrus has asked about what additional fee. I think we're talking about when you do a major version change. So if you had Expedition version 11, which I recently upgraded to version 12. I think there's a $250 upgrade fee, but it's only when you do a big major revision, correct, Rod?
Correct.
So I think Cyrus is a recent user and probably has version 12.
I think you're all up to date, Cyrus. I think you're all up to date. So, I pushed the wrong button. There we go. It's my fault. So I'm going to clear everything. Remove all. So I'll try again. I pushed the wrong button. You see, I had the Apogee open, not the Mercator.
Yep.
I was wondering what the problem was. So yes. Any other questions? So here's the here's these red lines here, right? And you'll see these red lines here are the Mercator current forecast grids, and you'll see here that these red arrows here line up pretty much with the imagery that I've downloaded from IMOS, which gives me a really good comfort that the current grids are accurate. And the difference here, if you get this current right, is you can increase your speed over the ground by 100% or more. So you can go from 4 knots to 10 knots. So you can potentially increase your speed over the ground by 200%. And that's pretty cool, don't you think? So, so weather routing, particularly with currents, could win or lose you the race. But who's interested in winning?
Hey.
There we go. There's at least one. Thank you. My money's on you, Pete.
Okay. Have we got any other questions? Because I was just thinking, Rod, if we could do a simple, very basic routing optimization run. Great. Is that too much? Okay.
No. It's sort of like that comes under the banner of working with children and animals. Yeah. Any other questions?
Nope.
Cool. Comments? Cool. We're done. Thank you. Good luck, everyone.
Thanks, Rod.
For those who haven't done it before, Paul and I have. For those who haven't done it before, it's the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it, Paul?
That's right, Rod. So, thanks everyone for turning up, and any other questions, please reach out. Maybe use the WhatsApp forum that both Rod and I will at least look at once a day. So if you've got any further questions.